everyone, it is Ryan Fowler here with my good friends Tim Costello, Jordan Kurtz, Inner Game Group Live every Saturday. We already have some people giving comments. Denise D, welcome to the show. P-Dubs, welcome to the show. Today we're going to get a little more personal. We're going to ask 3 questions, and if we think of any more, we'll ask more, and basically centered around why are we doing hypnosis? Like, how did we get into it? Why did we choose to do it? All of us have taken, hypnosis training and now doing it for clients. What's our greatest success story? What's our most interesting story? How has it affected our lives? So it'll be more personal, more intimate today. I think it'll be really interesting because I think all of us have some pretty darn interesting stories and personal experiences in relation to this. But before we dive into that, Tim, introduce yourself, and then Jordan.
I'm Tim Costello with Tim Costello Hypnosis and many other things. But today we'll focus on the hypnosis part of it. And I'll just leave it there because we'll get to the rest of it later.
Okay. And Jordan.
Jordan, no mic.
No mic.
Oh,
nope,
now it is.
Your mic works. He's just not talking.
Good.
Yeah, you sound good.
Is there a delay or something?
Nope.
No.
Go ahead.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay.
Now you got no mic.
Jordan?
Rip. Oh.
Now you got a mic.
Now your mic is good.
Let me check some stuff.
It's good again.
Yep. Put your tongue in the other cheek.
It's always this close. It's never any different.
It's good now. Go ahead and introduce yourself if it pops out again.
Well, if it keeps,
it's out.
Oh crap.
Oh.
All right, so we will get started while Jordan is fiddling around with that. So the first question, we got 3. We might come up with more. But the first question, Tim, is why did you choose to learn hypnosis?
Well, Ryan, it has a lot to do with you. And you and I were in the asset protection business about 18 years or so ago.
Yeah.
In Utah.
Protecting wealth from lawsuits. Yeah.
Yep. We met online and in a couple of these cool chat groups, and I liked the way you thought. And I said, man, this is one really smart, logical, objective guy. And then eventually we started a friendship. You moved to Salt Lake. We got the business going.
And you lived in Salt Lake too. Yeah.
Yep. I was already there. And then you moved there, and I knew you. And the first thing I noticed was that I'd get there about 8 a.m. and I'd be doing my thing. And you'd say, would you walk my doggy? I'm like, yeah, I like walking dogs. Like, no. So I took the Wiener Schnitzel dog out for a walk.
Yep.
And it was bourbon at that time.
Yep.
And I'd come back and, it was finally about noon, 1 o'clock. You'd sort of roll out of bed. And I just thought, well, that's really odd. I'm an early riser. Maybe he's a nightclubber, whatever. Didn't really care. Didn't bother me. I had work to do.
That was my trauma.
Yeah, that was back in the day when you were coping, if you will.
Coping, yeah.
But we spent a couple of years together. And then about 2009, we went separate ways. I went to Walmart. You kept doing the thing. And I left Walmart in 2019, was down in DFW area training for Amazon. You lived in Frisco, and you said, let's get together for a steak. So we went to this incredible steak, and I am now looking.
Steak, man.
Yeah, it was a great steak.
Still remember the King's butter.
Oh, man. They knew how to give it a name to get a lot of money out of it.
Yeah.
But I was looking across the table for about an hour, and a lot had changed about you. And I don't think you were completely fully healed yet because you were still sort of on your journey. But you were probably 90% done. And
yeah, I don't think at that point I was fixing some of my hang-ups with women because, I had a narcissistic mother. And so I had some female issues. So I hadn't fixed all of those, but I think I had fixed all my anxiety by then, or most of it. And I fixed all the depression and rage. Yeah.
Yeah. So after about an hour, I just had to look at you because, we were always good friends, but never got really too personal with each other.
Yeah.
But finally, I had to ask, what the heck happened? What is so different about you? Because it was markedly different for the energy that you displayed, the eye contact, you just weren't afraid anymore. You could just tell that there was something going on. And
Do you remember before the things I was afraid of before? Like, remember the swamp cooler?
I do remember the swamp cooler. I drug you up onto the roof to help me.
I was
clean it
terrified to
out.
fix the swamp cooler. Yeah, to turn it on.
You were
yeah.
afraid of heights, but that didn't bother me because sometimes people are just afraid of heights, right?
Yeah.
So come on up. I'll give you some courage. You can hang on to me. We'll go up on the roof and do it up.
Yeah.
But something was different. And I said, what did you do? And you said, well, I took this narcissistic abuse recovery course. And I thought, what the hell is narcissistic abuse? First of all, that you have to recover from. And we had an incredible, another hour and a half conversation, as now I've learned a lot more about you than I knew before. Because those things you probably don't want to share too much. Those are, pretty personal and pretty deep and stuff like that. But now you're like, I'm through it all. Let's talk about it. And I literally that night went back to my hotel room and signed up for that narcissistic abuse recovery course because the things you were telling me, I recognized in Carrie having been through that. And now I started recognizing her parents.
She had a narcissistic parent. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one narcissistic parent and the other one was just very enabling, if you will, if not narcissistic themselves. But I just thought, oh, wow. I mean, my head was exploding. Then I went and did the number of I think I finished the whole course that weekend, watching all the videos, thinking, wow, I don't have that thing there, but man, this stuff is impactful. Really started learning a lot about it. So I guess a couple of years went by and I retired again. It was about 21 and we were talking and you're like, hey, why don't you become a hypnotist? And I said, why would I do that? He goes, because I got this thing that I'm doing with hypnotism and clearing out this trauma and stuff like that. And after having known you way back when and then knowing you now, and then now seeing the difference, thinking, wow, what joy could I bring to people to help them climb out of that hole? And I love helping people and bringing joy, and becoming a hypnotist sounds cool because if the narcissistic abuse thing didn't work, I could always get on stage and make people cluck like a chicken, right?
Yeah.
Make some money, but I'm just kidding. I digress. So I went and took my course, and that was the spring of 22, and finished that, and then said, wow, that was cool. And then immediately connected with you to experience your dive to the 5. And we started working on videos. And I came down to Texas when you're still living there. We did that first video series. Yeah. Sort of a stepping stone learning point to sort of put it all together.
It really did get the ball rolling on the online digital content, which is effective.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If nothing else, it explains into what you might be suffering with. Right. Yeah. And then you can start identifying, going, there's a solution. Great. Let me find some. So we did that, put it up. And then you said, gee, what do I owe you? I said, why don't you do a session for Carrie? And that was, I guess, that was late 22, September of 22.
Man, I should have done it 2 years prior.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt. But you know what you know, right? So I was in Germany and you guys did your thing, and she did dive to the 5 in her normal, very detailed fashion, and handed it over to you, and you guys dug in pretty hard. And she says, yeah, there was some things I wouldn't come out, and Ryan kept digging and finally cleared it out. And ever since then, she has been a different person. Now, let me describe why she's a different person. Well, maybe we'll save that for later, but that's why I became a hypnotist, so that I could do dive to the 5 and do trauma clearing for people to unburden them from the things they've suffered through.
All right. Cool.
You might say unburdened by what has been.
Yeah, they're not going to be burdened by what has been burdened before.
Well, what is that?
Nice intro, Jordan.
Exact phrase. It's something like that. It's unburdened by what has been and something else.
Yeah, you can be go into the future and be unburdened by what has been or something.
She's basically saying, hey, no accountability.
Yeah, just go do what you want.
Don't worry about it. The past is in the past. Let's
That's it.
all right.
Denise
Cool.
will love that, by the way.
Hey, I believe in forgiveness, but I also believe in accountability.
Absolutely.
And I believe in restitution when you wrong someone. So as much as you can. All right. So Jordan, Tim, thank you very much, Tim. That's how you got into hypnosis. Jordan, why did you choose hypnosis? The first question of 3.
Why I choose hypnosis? Well, back in 2020, I was having some issues with basically giving myself validation, needing other people's approval, and I didn't want to move forward unless I had other people's approval, specifically my parents' approval, but the approval of other people is still important as well. I didn't want to be an outcast. I wanted to
do what's acceptable.
Yeah, and so what I considered acceptable was pretty wide, but if I wanted to go, I don't know, invest in cryptocurrency, if I wanted to live on my own, if I wanted to talk to girls, if I wanted to start just start like a weightlifting program, things like this, those don't, and looking back, those aren't perhaps too far out of what normal people do, but it was what I felt was outside of what was acceptable in my own subconscious. And so after Ryan and I worked together back in 2020, I realized that was the most dramatic change in my behavior that pretty much ever. And
how are you after then? Changed how?
I didn't. The validation seeking behavior was significantly reduced, if not gone. I did a couple more sessions on my own using your hypnosis audios, and that was helpful because I could pinpoint specific things, and that was back in 2020, and I didn't actually take the training until 2022, and I think I just did more research on it. I understood. I work on myself. I was getting my engineering degree at the time, so I never really planned on doing this full time. And then reading various different. I was very interested in finances and understanding how to run a business, and I realized that if you're going to run a business, the number one thing you have to do is add value to people. And at the time, the most valuable experience I'd ever had was a hypnosis session. And I realized that this was likely, it just felt like liquid gold. It was like, it was too good to pass up. And I realized, you must learn how to do this on your own. Because it's so valuable and you can help a lot of people. And I think whenever you start a business from the aspect of how do I actually help others rather than just how do I make money, that the money will follow.
Yeah. How do I solve problems? How do I bring value?
Right.
And by the way, there has been a change in you and your energy, Jordan.
Yeah, definitely.
Like you're buff, you're kind of buff now too.
Yeah.
You did go to that gym, right? Before, maybe not for me, not acceptable. Now you got some muscle on you.
Well, why don't you, when I was like, well, why don't you take a more balanced approach to fitness? I'm like, I'm trying to get buff. It's like, there's only really one way. You have to eat more and lift more weight. Like that.
Yeah. It's not like you're doing steroids and getting up to 250 at 6% body fat,
Exactly. And not that the other fitness components aren't useful, but for I think most guys they want to look big. They want to look like they're, big and strong.
Yeah.
And I think that's a totally reasonable goal for every guy to achieve. And
I've been there.
We all know there's a myriad of other benefits that come with that, psychologically, physically, your health. There's no disadvantage to being, physically healthy. And so, I learned that once I started learning the tools of hypnosis, I took the same person who taught Ryan originally. I took that same course from Mark
And
Johnson.
so did
Shout out
Tim.
Mark.
That's Mark
Oh, yes.
Johnson, hypnomark.com, and he gave you like the foundational training. Same.
Yep.
We added a lot after that training, like the dive to the 5 is mine, and a lot of the super neuroplasticity. Well, that's established science, but I've broken it down into 5 categories. So there's a lot of extra, but that foundation was Hypnomark, and he's a good teacher. Hypnomark.com.
Yeah, a lot of good, and kind of understanding the framework of how you approach a session is also important. Now, I mean, you learn a lot of the basics. You learn like what's an induction, what's a deepen. Like you learn a lot of the hypnosis stuff that you gotta know how to do when you're in a session. And then once you learn kind of how all the tools work, I think what Ryan really helped me understand was how to apply those tools really effectively and how you think about applying those tools. Because you'll learn the different hypnosis techniques, you'll learn the inner child, the regression, you'll learn Gestalt, but you got to understand how to. What Ryan helped me understand is how do you connect those together in the most efficient way to help the client. And that's what the dive to the 5 and some of the other techniques that he's introduced. And so why I became a hypnotist, I just saw that I think that it's kind of an untapped area, and I think you need really smart. I think that as an engineer, I can bring a different, because most engineers don't go into therapy. It's a very they're very, when I tell people, because I'm employed as an engineer, and when I tell people I'm a hypnotist on the side, none of them ever see it coming. It's so
they're like you.
Well,
because it's like engineer and then hypnotist. Whoa, that's like quite a difference between the 2 careers.
Yeah, it's very, they seem very separate, and I think I like it because the analytical part of my mind likes breaking down and identifying these root programs in people, and it makes
that
sense.
is part of hypnosis, is figuring out what is going on at the root that makes this person struggle.
Right.
Yeah, there's definitely analysis involved.
Yeah, and I felt like it was just the right fit for my skill set at the time. I often say it's like if these 2 disappear, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because I think it's that important. Like, I hope you guys don't disappear, but if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, I'm still continuing. It's like,
carry the torch, baby.
And I think you 2 are the same way. It's like,
we're doing it regardless, man.
And it's like, because we believe that this is actually something that's very valuable to people and that has to get out there. I mean, we see every day, we see so many people affected by toxic shame and anger and resentment. Like we can't help but see people that need our help because it's so common. And I think a lot of the motivation for us is getting enough momentum to just kind of crack the ice and show people like, this is how you can help yourself. And so that's kind of why I got into it. And what was the other question?
That was it.
We're doing one question at a time and then going around.
Okay.
I want to say something. I'm not going to add to Jordan's story, but I want to pull something out of his story that sometimes maybe people miss. And he was looking for validation to do things. And I want to say that if anybody out there who's watching this and you do or do not do something because you're thinking about what other people will think, that is the validation you're seeking because you don't have that validation at your core. Now, I'm going to excerpt that just a little bit by saying we all work for somebody and we want praise and we want to do a good job and all that kind of stuff for our paychecks, et cetera, et cetera. So there will be some approval and validation you're seeking from those particular people who are paying you something. But generally, if you're going to go buy a car and you're thinking about how cool everybody will think about you looking in it, that's the thing that needs fixed. I want you to buy an awesome car because you freaking love it and you don't give a crap what anybody else says. I mean, if you're buying a 71 Volkswagen and you're going to soup that bad boy up and you're going to do it and put $5,000 into it and drive it around and be the coolest beast in the world, more power to you. But don't do it because somebody else will think you're cool. It's nice that they do. It's a good byproduct, and we all want a glad hand and all that kind of stuff. Nothing wrong with that, but acknowledgement, if you will. But don't do it because they're going to do that. That's the key, because you'll never fill that hole.
Do it because
those
you
are
want
the things that we solve.
Yeah, do it.
Yep.
And I was talking about, Jordan, you were talking about there's many things you think you couldn't do, was not appropriate. I was raised in a family where it's like, yeah, I like nice cars. I think especially fast cars are really cool. And but I was taught that was prideful and just a prideful thing to do, and maybe I should be focused on more spiritual things, et cetera, et cetera. But I eventually did get like several nice sports cars, convertibles, and they were a lot of fun. And I did get them because I wanted them. Like I would say when I was with you, Tim, we had that BMW coupe that was a lot of fun, and at that point in time it was in my head, oh, I'm going to get better girls with this. I even told you that.
I remember you saying, man, this blue BMW, some 3 Series, whatever. And that was a pretty hot blue. And you said, man, the chicks are really going to come to me for this car. And I thought,
and
Ryan, that's not who you want.
It helped maybe a little when they first see it, but that's about it,
That's it.
But then my all my trauma and all my lack of self-confidence and low self-esteem, quickly turn them off.
And I always used to say, Ryan, you're so good looking. You're so well built. I mean, what's the problem? Go meet girls. But I had no idea what was going on inside your head.
Yeah, that I had a mom several times a day, every day for the first 18 years of my life, a woman who we all idealize our parents. All children idealize their parents. It's tied to survival. It's evolutionary psychology. And so this ideal woman for 18 years, one way or another, was communicating to me that I was worthless, and that she would actually, just so you know, Tim, my mom would say, no girl would ever want you because of this. No girl would ever want you because of this.
Oh, yes.
Your toenails are too long. Like she literally one time said, I hope you're not at a swim party with those toenails because they're so long and a girl would see it and not like you.
I believe
it. Like, dang.
Anything they can do to control you or affect you, they would do that.
Yeah.
Pure narcissism. Yes,
but,
I agree. But
and narcissists are wounded souls, or wounded, tortured souls. I've forgiven her. But Gabriel, 2008 M3, very distinctive car. I know what you're talking about. That's with the V8, the high revving V8. I never had the 2008 M3. I did get the M2 competition though, which had the
blue one?
No, I had a white M2 competition, and it was the same engine as the M3 at that time, and that was a fun car.
Oh, that was after I moved, because when I moved, you had that blue one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then later I got the Porsche, but when I got the Porsche and the M2, I wasn't even thinking about women. I was just thinking about, wow, that car looks so hot,
It was.
It was fun, but I don't even have a car now. I just, and honestly, it's like I don't even miss it. It's just weird. It's like
you don't need it.
Yeah, don't need it. And there's so many other things that are so much more fulfilling in life, like what we do. But with that said, hey, if you want to go to the gym, Jordan, get buff, if that's what you want, there shouldn't be anything holding you back, and so many of us, your wife tried to start 20, 30 businesses, always got stuck. Something kept her from moving forward. And so that's one of the number one things we do.
Yep.
It's just remove these blocks, and people just go out and get cool stuff or do cool things after that. And they just kind of, they let who they are and what they want just flow out into the world. And it's a beautiful thing, because people,
authenticity is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yep.
People seeking validation from the outside world, or people trying to, prove that they're good enough to the outside world, or people who are in scarcity mindset end up doing a lot of maladaptive stuff. People who have toxic shame end up becoming alcoholics, or, addicted to their phone, all this stuff to counter that feeling of I'm not good enough. But man, once you feel you're good enough and you go after what you want, you can build some corporate empire, or you're a woman who just becomes an amazing mom with amazingly well-adjusted kids. And that is absolutely a small miracle for sure. Yeah. And that is a great life. And you can be very happy with that. But when people go out into the world, give me just a sec, Jordan. Sorry. Yeah, people go out into the world healthy. They're actually contributing to the world in the greatest ways and getting what they want too. It's win-win. It's so great. Yeah. Go ahead, Jordan.
Well, yeah, that's good. And the other thing, like the people that don't approve or don't want to give you approval of the things you're doing, they're not going to, whether you do it or not, they're not going to be happy. So you might as well do the thing you want to do because you want to do it, because they're not going to be happy either way. So you might as well have the accomplishment, have the thing you want to do anyway.
Yes. Yeah. And what's ironic is when you do your thing, even if others might disapprove, in the long run, you actually get more respect. Because
or
people
you might
can tell you have a backbone
from some people, and some people might just be haters no matter what.
That is true. And realize,
and who cares?
When you become authentic, when you become authentic and you start raising your game, now people are attracted to you in a different manner. And I'm not talking sexual attraction like with women, although that will happen.
Could happen that way.
About business people, and you'll start looking towards people who are better at you in some things that you want to learn from, and you will literally increase the worldly wealth of the people around you of information, not money, but information, influence, bringing you up. They don't bring you down. They want to build you up. All the people that want to tear you down, they all fall to the wayside because they can't stand your glory.
Yeah. What I like about you, Tim and Jordan, is you each have kind of your own strengths and skill sets that I don't have. I'm not jealous. I'm like, in fact, I'm having you guys do some work for me to take advantage of your skills and work sets, right?
Yep.
And I know I got my own thing too. So, okay. So I think time to share my story, unless you have more. We were on anything else, Jordan?
Well, I'll add on to that. And that's always been my approach. Like when I was working in my engineering lab, I always, if you can go into a frame of I don't need to be the smartest person in the room. I just need to be friends with the smartest person in the room and ask them questions. Then there's not this kind of, if your ego or whatever isn't threatened by other people who know more than you and you want to learn, then that's a really good mindset to have, because you get the benefits of everybody who's smarter than you, and sometimes you have to do some hypnosis to achieve that, certainly. But if you approach it from a learning, if you're always in that learning mindset, that growth mindset that we've talked about, I think before on the show, you'll never stop learning.
Gabriel says Jordan in his youth doesn't realize his status at this point. Jordan, you're rubbing shoulders with giants.
Thank you, Gabe.
The thing about thank you very much. The thing about Jordan is he's already he's already done quite a lot with his life at such a young age. When he's our age, man, he'll be way past where we are.
When he'll
be doing whatever he wants to do,
and we'll be dead when he's our age. So.
That's right. Yeah, when you're my age, I'll be dead.
Yeah,
I'm 26. Yeah, and about that,
26.
Yeah, I'll be alive in 24 years. I'm 50, so I'll still be around.
I'll be 100.
Damn.
I hope I'm still here.
Yeah.
I think the reason I think I've been able to get this far being 26 is because I never stop learning from people who are smarter than me. I mean, it goes back to I was talking about I lost my train of thought. I'll think of it later. Ryan, you can tell your story.
You were learning from everybody smarter than you.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I will make a comment. The smartest person in the room, if he's really a smart guy, when he's interacting with you, Jordan, he will say, okay, what is there about Jordan that I can learn from? Because we all have something to give to the world. Smartest person in the room doesn't mean he's God, doesn't mean he knows everything. And if he's really smart, you keep learning from others around him too. So, so my story, why did I get into hypnosis? So some of you have heard this story before. Man, I haven't shared this. I don't know. It's been at least a few months, if not several months. So, when Tim knew me, and especially in my college years, I had developed very bad manic depression, and the manias weren't terrible. I was bipolar type 2, which means mild manias, but the depression was diagnosed extreme. There's actually 5 or 6 categories of depression. I was extreme. I was at the bottom, and they put me on all sorts of antidepressants. And they said, hey, if you go off your antidepressants, you may need to be hospitalized. And I almost flunked out of school because of the antidepressants. They actually just totally zombified my brain, made it really hard to think. I went on antidepressants for 2 semesters. But why was I so depressed? And by the way, anxiety all the time. And then as I got older, to my mid-20s, I just started feeling this rage at God, rage at, my mom, to a lesser extent at my dad, everyone who bullied me. And so what had happened is, my family background is an upper middle class family that appears on the outside, appears like a very, well-to-do family who's doing well. And we were very religious household, went to church every Sunday. My mom and dad were and are well thought of in their community, and very much into, very conservative, doing things the appropriate way, the right way. Well, that's the outside world. Inside world is, my mom has tons of trauma. So does my dad. They had very, very dysfunctional and childhoods, and a lot of toxic shame, a lot of psychological abuse in their childhoods. I won't go into it, but too much. But my dad's dad is a full-blown narcissist, just totally full-blown. So he married one, and then my mom's mom ran away from home at 14, and I think married 2 different guys, and the first guy's an alcoholic and the second was physically abusive. Just all this stuff, just really quite a bit of dysfunction and trauma, alcoholism, physical abuse, narcissistic abuse in their background. So they were deeply traumatized. So I was raised in this household, and because of that, my mother has full-blown narcissistic personality disorder. She ticks off all the boxes. It's on a spectrum. I would say she's in the severe category, but there are some out there that are really extreme narcissists, is even worse, but she's pretty bad. And more covert narcissism. So some people think narcissists are just very grandiose, and many of them are, but there's really what a narcissist is doing is they're projecting to the world a perfect version of them, what they think that should be like. So my mom's projection was very righteous, a very righteous, church-going, religious, God-fearing, loving, human being. And different narcissists have different ideas of what they think is ideal, what the world wants to see from them. So that's what she did. So she was never like this, high roller type. No, she's like the very righteous, devout, type, and her home was always immaculate and etc. But the reality was just constant psychological warfare against her children, doing all sorts of things to gaslight us, just not just constant criticism, which was there, but constant covert manipulation, getting the children to fight with each other in a very covert type of way. For example, and just doing things to mess with us. So for example, I would be watching TV, and she actually watches us and waits until we're into the most exciting part of the show we're watching. And she's like, you need to clean your room. And it's like, okay, wait for a commercial. And she's like, no, right now. And she come in, turn off the TV. Well, why did she do that? She did that because that would psychologically screw with us the most. And that is narcissistic supply. A narcissist needs either adulation, they need external validation to an extreme degree that the world is not capable of giving them, but they will get as much of that adulation as they can. That's why they become these very larger than life, or very successful, or very religiously devout, or maybe a woman will become spends a ton of time in the gym, a ton of time on beauty products to become very beautiful to get validation because she's a narcissist. Or the guy will, become this, and a lot of it's false. Like, a guy may present himself as this very successful businessman, but his net worth is like a quarter of what he projects it to be. But he has like the Mercedes and the big house, and the truth is he's super drowning in debt, but he's projecting that image. So they're doing that to get outward validation, but there's actually a second way, and they're doing that because deep down they actually feel completely worthless, bad, just whatever. They have some sort of really high degree of toxic shame. They tend to have a lot of anxiety trying to run, and they do everything they can to cover it up, run away from it. And so they put this false version to the world. They think everyone's going to love, so they get validation that way, but they can never get enough of that. And so the other way they counter their toxic shame is to become an emotional bully. And why do bullies bully others? Well, a bully feels insignificant, powerless in some way. And he counters that feeling like a schoolyard bully. He's like, man, I feel, and maybe it's because it probably is because of how he's treated at home. Feels he doesn't matter, insignificant, powerless, etc. So now he's in the schoolyard and he's a bigger kid and he beats up some little kid and he's like, oh, I'm not so insignificant after all. I'm not powerless. Look, I just exercise my power and screw this kid up. I just punch his face in. Well, a narcissist does that psychologically. They feel worthless, inconsequential, insignificant. The real them does. They literally power trip. They get a power trip off of screwing with you and seeing that what they did had a significant impact on you, good or bad, but most often bad by far. Yeah. And they have their shadow. Shadow is the parts in our subconscious we don't want to face, and so it's out of our conscious mind. But then we see it in everyone in the world around us. It's like we don't acknowledge us within it, so it's literally kind of. And again, a lot of this really is mostly subconscious, what's going on here. But it's like, I don't want to face this stuff. It's not me, it's you. I'm not a bad person. Everyone around me is bad. It's not me. It's kind of a form of denial. It's also going to be looked at because of all the trauma in you. You just have a very jaded lens through which you interpret the world. But it is more than that. It's literally stuff in you don't want to face. You put on others around you and the world around you. So narcissists who have all this trauma in them will project it, and they'll be very critical of everyone in the world around me, around them. I'm not a narcissist. Maybe I am. I don't know. Probably not. But if I was a narcissist, I would have never gone inward and fixed myself. So that's one. Narcissists will do everything they can to run away from what's inside of them. And if you see someone who is constantly criticizing others, talking trash about others, whatever, but then the tiniest criticism against them, they just can't handle, or they'll just never apologize. They'll never be accountable. That's a sign of narcissism, So anyways,
can I ask a question
psychological warfare? What's up?
Can I ask a question about that experience?
Yeah.
So did other people in the social setting, environment, neighborhood, whatever, did they know that your mother was like this?
No, because a narcissist spends a lot of time. I mean, their psychological survival depends on projecting a positive image to the world. So everyone gives them validation. They're basically do that so no one will know that the real them, what they feel deep down is that the real them is no good. Is powerless, not good, massive toxic shame. They don't want to feel that, and they don't want anyone to find out that's who they really are. And so not only to get validation, but that's why they put this perfect image to the world. Could be grandiose, could be a woman that spends tons of time becoming extremely attractive, whatever. But
Yeah.
all of the abuse is done to those closest to them in a very covert way. So they cannot get enough validation. They
There
cannot
isn't
get enough
enough.
out.
There isn't
So
enough.
there
is
need
never enough.
There's never enough. It's
Yep.
you know, it's like a bottomless pit. So they need another way to cover their trauma, and so they're projecting all their trauma in the outside world. So they're looking at everyone as being horrible. Well, that's how they feel about themselves. But they do it covertly because they cannot let people see behind the mask. They need people to think of them as this great person. So all the abuse, which is psychological bully, so they feel more powerful and that they matter and they're substantial and worthwhile, that is all covert and hidden. So
you said, you know, if they come over to, if you have guests over, right, and your house is clean, you know, your guest may think, oh, this household looks very orderly. It looks
Yep.
like it's
it's
they're
all
none
into
the-
keeping up appearances.
And here's some cookies, and would you like a glass of milk? And how can I help you? And, you know, it's just the grandiose performance of the day.
Yeah.
It's every
And so,
single minute.
Right.
yeah. So narcissists can be very kind, friendly, charming, accommodating to everyone in the outside world because they want those people to think well of them and give them validation. But then to the people close to them, they will abuse. By the way, Andrew Tate fits this.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, yeah, I went to Andrew Tate's compound, Romania, and he was so accommodating. He was so nice. He was so gracious. But then you have these women that are really close to him. You know, I think there's another 3 not too long ago, additional rape allegations now in the UK. They find, you know, and so it literally is kind of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, but the Mr. Hyde, they hide. Except those closest to them who are being abused, and you know, like narcissistic mothers, they even abuse the people closest to them in a way where the children won't recognize the abuse. So they're extremely manipulative, extremely critical, but I'm doing this for your own good. I'm just doing it because I want to help you and I love you, and you know, and
they start when you're young, so you don't know any different. It's the dirty water.
Yeah. And so, for example, a narcissistic mother may do things in this way. I'm so concerned about your brother because he's such a problem child and he does this, this, and this. I'm really worried because of that. He's going to get into drugs when he gets a little older because he really has all these signs. Well, what is she communicating? She's communicating, I'm so concerned and I'm such a loving, concerned person. And this kid is such a piece of shit, but in a very covert way. She would never call that child a piece of shit. She would say, I'm concerned because of all of his issues and I just want to help him. But she's framing it that he's a bad kid. When in reality, he's probably not a bad kid. She's making that up so that she can appear concerned.
Because it's unidentifiable. I mean, that for the person they're gaslighting, they can't tell any difference.
Yeah.
And that's why, Ryan, when I was first working with you, that's why I think it was so hard for me to figure out what was wrong, because I experienced not nearly to the degree that you had, but some of those same narcissistic behavior. I won't say she's a narcissist, but narcissistic behavior, let's say.
Yeah, element. It's on a spectrum, you know.
Right.
Some people are extreme narcissists, some just enough to be kind of a-holes, but they're not that bad, you know.
Right. And that's why it can be hard for some clients to detect anything's wrong, because they're like, well, they're not doing all these quote unquote overtly abusive things. You know, some of these things could be considered good. They kind of muddy the water a little bit. So it's not, if it's super painful, it's really obvious. But if it's more subtle, it can be harder to detect.
It is intentional. It is intentional that way.
Very intentional.
Because if someone punches you in the face, like a parent is beating the child, you hear this story. You know, my dad was beating me until I was 16, and then one day I punched him back and knocked him on the floor, and he never touched me again.
Yeah.
Well, that is overt abuse. At some point, that kid's going to say, you know what, this isn't right. I shouldn't be, yeah, I'm going to hit back. And then the abuse ends. Well, covert abuse is designed so that the person being abused never even realize they're being abused. Oh, my mom just cares about me, you know. And then the way they treat you causes all these issues like massive depression, massive anxiety. And then they will treat you in a way to create a problem within you so that then they can focus on that actual problem that they created without anyone knowing that they were the source of the problem.
And that's why
they
I
treat
said
you like crap.
earlier,
You become depressed, and now they have a real issue to deal with.
and that's why I said earlier that if you ever do or do not something with somebody else's reaction in mind, that's a sign.
Well, it's a sign you don't know how to validate yourself. Therefore,
Correct.
you need validation from the outside world.
That's right.
It's a sign you don't feel good enough just for who you are.
And
So,
I'll say,
yeah.
And to a certain extent, they probably do care about you to a certain extent, but the way they care about you is, I am going to care about this other person so that I feel validated, so that, because if I take care of this other person, that means I'm a good person. And so it's not even,
I'm going to create a problem so I can fix it and feel needed.
That's right.
For example.
Yeah.
So they'll covertly create the problem and then fix it and come off as a hero.
Or they're so overly concerned about what everybody else thinks for their external validation that they start pouring that onto you, and you grow up in that atmosphere of thinking about what other people are thinking about you.
Yeah. Yep. So that was my background. And they've done studies on trauma, and they found out you can have one really big trauma, like in war, or you were sexually assaulted or molested as a child, and that can really mess you up. Or you can have thousands of very small, tiny traumas, just, death by a million cuts, just, these little, your parents just shaming you in really small ways, but doing it a lot. And that person can be every bit as traumatized or more traumatized than someone who was molested. I'm not minimizing you. If there's some molestation, sexual assault issues, the trauma can become very severe. But a lot of little traumas are cumulative and can add up and can become very severe. And so that was my case, because it was just constant, several times a day, low level, sideways glances. I'm so concerned about you that you're such a problem child. It's not the abuse, it's the beliefs children form because of the abuse that is the trauma. Oh, my mom treats me like a problem child. I must be a problem child. She's concerned about me, but who am I? Children are trying to find out what their identity is, who they are, even through adolescence. Absolutely. So, that was my upbringing. So by college age, I was a loner. I was bullied in school just because, I was like this smart, nerdy kid, maybe a little small, and I was definitely skinny for my age. And then my mom would get me like these, secondhand clothes. So like I was wearing bell bottoms in the 80s, and I was made fun of. And that's just what my mom gave me to wear. So that's another sign of narcissism, by the way, is they get the best stuff for them and they give you crappy stuff.
Yeah.
Anyways, come college age, or, I served in LDS mission in the Philippines. And that's when my depression really came out, because I was put under a lot of stress there. And by college time, very, very, very bad depression. I was put on like probably a dozen different antidepressants or anti-anxieties, not all at once, but they try out several ones to try and figure out something that worked for you. Totally zombified my brain. I had a 1.6 GPA for 2 semesters, and they said one more and we kick you out or suspend you. You can get back, but we'll kick you out until you do some remedial stuff to get back in. And found out that these antidepressants, I read some books, did some research, found out, they can really mess you up, and numb you out. And so I went off the antidepressants. And in the meantime, I was going to normal psychotherapy once a week I probably did once a week for at least a year, or almost every week. Went off the antidepressants, and I would say about a year of normal psychotherapy probably didn't do anything for anxiety at all. Didn't do anything for rage. I started once working with the psychotherapist, discovered, oh, I feel this way. I'm so messed up because of how my mom treated me. I had no idea she's a narcissist, neither did the therapist, but knew she was doing something messed me up. That's when the rage started. So therapy actually maybe uncovered this rage. Didn't help the anxiety, but a year, 50 sessions, probably 30% of my depression. It took enough of the edge off so I could function. Yeah. And so then I went off the antidepressants, and then my grades went up, and then, I managed to graduate, had to retake some classes, etc. Managed to graduate. Did another 50 sessions over the next, 14 years after that. Probably fixed about 60% of my depression, but honestly, the last few years of therapy did absolutely nothing. It just didn't help, and it didn't fix all these other issues, and that was a lot of therapy over a long time. So I would just get on the internet. I kept looking, you watch YouTube, you see something, oh, maybe this can help me. And what happened is I'm 50 now at age 38. I came across some, YouTube channel research, whatever, something on the internet, and it just started ticking off boxes. Ding, 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 ding. It was talking about narcissistic abuse. It's like, oh man, that's a match for me. Oh, that's a match for me. Oh, my mom does do this. She does do that. But even anytime I would think about my mom, it's like, well, she does that, but then does she really do that? I did have this big cloud over me. And that's what covert abuse can do. But furthermore, if you're raised in an abusive environment, especially a covert abusive environment, it's like a fish is born in a pond of dirty water. Your gills hurt, you're in pain, but it's all you've ever known. It's your normal. And you don't really have anything to contrast it with if that's all you've ever known. See, so there's kind of a fog and a cloud because it's your normal, because you have nothing to compare it to, and especially if the abuse is intentionally covert. And so there was a lot of this, did she really do that? Et cetera, et cetera. Well, after I found out about narcissistic abuse, that's when I came across Melanie Tonya Evans' program.
Yep.
And even after listening to the audio 3 times, I remember to this day, I listened to audio 3-4 times, and I was walking, bottom floor, finished basement floor of a house. That's where I lived. Walking up the steps to my car, I stopped in the middle of the stairs, and I felt this tiny but very intense bright spot of happiness right in my heart. And I just stopped, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Nothing good has happened today, and I am feeling happy for no reason. And I was just like, what is this? It was foreign to me, especially when nothing good had happened that day, just a normal day. And then I was like, oh crap, I think these audios are doing something. after I listened to these, and here's the thing, this was me in my room listening to an audio tape, and honestly, I was kind of half-assing it. Her program is like 2-hour audios, which are too long. Like the ones I do is 46 minutes, hour tops. So I'd listen to the first hour and then fall asleep. That's what I usually did. But I was following the instructions. And after I did this 10 times, I was just like, my life is different, completely different. And I was just so happy. I felt so much better because what the audios were putting deep down in my subconscious core identity is that you are enough just as you are. You're worthy of love just for who you are. And the real you is not something you should be ashamed of. The real who you really are is the best part of you. That is the unique diamond within you, and there's no other diamond quite like it in the universe. It is unique, it is one of a kind, and therefore you have something to present to the world that no one else has. And that is true for every human being on this planet.
Yep.
When you get that in your core, it changes your life. It absolutely does. And within 2 months, all depression gone. Within 2 months, all rage gone completely. Forgave my parents, forgave all the bullies, forgave everyone, didn't care anymore, and things were different. Well, I didn't know what she was doing with hypnosis. Took me another 6 years to figure that out. Took me another 2 years to even, her program didn't teach how to resolve anxiety. Her methods could be used for that, but she didn't teach you how to use them correctly. Took me 2 years to figure that out. Once I figured out how to use it to resolve anxiety went within a couple months. And I had anxiety constantly. That's why I would sleep in, Tim. Or you talk about, hey, I was in Utah. Hey, we need to turn on the swamp cooler for the summer. And I was terrified to do it. I felt anxiety over absolutely everything all the time. And it would spike with some things, up to 10 out of 10. Once these techniques figured out how to use them for anxiety went away. And the thing that replaces them is absolute, just authentic confidence. And Tim, I think when you met me in 2019, you hadn't seen me in 10 years in person or whatever.
It's about right.
You're like, something's different. What was there was authentic confidence, a deep down belief that I am enough just as I am. I have massive value just for who I am. The real me is the best part of me. Everyone has the real them. They're one of a kind in some way. Therefore, everyone has something unique of value to offer to the world and the universe. And let me tell you, 2 years after I had started this process, my income doubled. I went from about 75 grand a year to 150 plus. And I wasn't even trying. It just happened. Well, what happened? Well, when you get authentic confidence, people just like it.
Well, let me tell you what happens.
And it opens doors. Yeah, go
Ryan,
for it.
But what happens is you waste less time getting to the point, right?
Yeah.
When you got to get something done, you just get it done.
You just
don't
do it.
ruminate about it for 2 days and then get it done.
Procrastinate. Yeah.
Right. So there's 2 days that now you've efficientized yourself, right?
Yeah.
Whatever engineering term there is to create efficiency in your life. So all of a sudden things are lubed up, smoother, and happening quicker.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do anything. You're just all of a sudden more efficient.
That's right.
Now, people will attract to you, and people will like you, and they will respond to you differently. But the reality is you're wasting less time.
Yeah.
I think
women like confident men.
Yeah, look at Jordan over there going, what engineering term is there for efficiency? We got lubrication. We got
when you believe in and love the real authentic you, that by itself opens so many doors. People are so more receptive to you. People, and I think when you are relaxed and comfortable, it helps others be relaxed and comfortable. When you believe in yourself and your ability and value, others pick up on it and say, you know what? I think this guy's the real deal. They believe in you too, more. It's not, automatic. People have their agency, and people have all sorts of trauma in them that can interfere with that. But that is the kind of the general, the way things go. So when I figured out what this lady was doing, she calls it quantum freedom healing. And I always thought in the back of my head, this lady is great. She's fantastic. And she is. She's an amazing woman, Melanie Tonya Evans. Subscribe to her YouTube channel. But I was always like, Leopard Leatherworks, that's Carrie, Tim's wife. Thank you. And thank you, Mike, for the heart. And thank you, Carrie. When I realized she was doing a form of self-hypnosis, then I was like, oh, I can learn this. So that's when I got certified with Mark, who you guys also, I actually never got certified. I just took all the training and then I skipped the final test. And I'm kind of like that. I'm kind of like anti-authority. Like I've written a book with a law professor, but don't have a law degree. So I'm just all about getting the competence and screw the title. That's just kind of how I am. Anyways, when I found out it's time of hypnosis, learn the hypnosis, and they taught me some stuff Melanie wasn't doing. And then I studied other hypnotists, like Marissa Peer is an influence.
British lady.
And her big things are the 3 types of toxic shame, but it's really 5. There's 3 types of toxic shame, and then trapped anger, resentment, rage, and then feeling unsafe. That's where the diet of the 5 came from. Anyways, combining the best of all these 3 people into that, and then doing my diet of the 5. Also, Dr. Andrew Huberman, talking about neuroplasticity, his neuroplasticity super protocol, but actually gearing that more towards hypnosis, which he's a big fan of, by the way, him and Dr. David Spiegel. You know, Stanford is either number 1, 2, or 3 in the world for psychology. And that's where they are neuroscientists, psychiatrists, psychologists, all huge fans of hypnosis over there because there's a mountain of data supporting that it works. When you combine all this stuff together, I then started doing sessions 6 years ago for clients. And I would have people who were just totally shut down or just totally no self-belief, depressed, anxious, whatever. And I was just starting to notice 1 session, 2 sessions, their life was forever changed. It was like, oh, dang, you put all this stuff together and it's like 10 times more powerful than what Melanie stuff does. And Melanie stuff is massively powerful. So I just knew that I had to bring this to the world because when you fix your internal suffering and you become more aware of what's in your internal world, it's like all of a sudden your subconscious picks up on other people's suffering in the world. And there's a lot of suffering and trauma in the world. And so the next logical step is, man, we got to fix this.
Yep.
We got to help end suffering. So that's why I do what I do. And it's freaking awesome.
Can I ask, Ryan, so because some people struggle, they don't even want to do the hypnosis because they're so nervous to change or they don't feel like they're good enough to change. What got you from struggling to actually, like, was there any resistance you had with
absolutely
opening Melanie Tony Anna's work? Like, what got you from, how did you even like get the will or the desire to even fix yourself? Because some people feel like they don't even want to fix themselves to begin with. Like,
excellent question. Excellent question. So when I first started Melanie stuff, there's no resistance because I didn't even really know what it was. It's like, okay, she has this narcissistic abuse healing program. I didn't know when I started listening to the audio, she's going to have me go inward, locate my pain, ramp it up, and then use a type of super neuroplasticity. You just tell trauma, get out of here, and it leaves. When you get yourself in a certain state and you do it a certain way, you can literally tell your subconscious, go away, and it goes. And then it's gone forever. It's permanent change. And there's a mountain of science behind that, guys. Watch my 4-part series on super neuroplasticity. The top dudes at Stanford University and many other universities know this. Your average practitioner is just not using it at all. They just have no idea. It's kind of unfortunate.
So how did we get to an hour and we only asked 1 question?
You got me. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. After her stuff actually started working and getting me better and fixing me, then I felt resistance because my brain started realizing, oh man, she's having me go inward and probe in all these areas that are painful.
Yep.
And our brain is designed to, above all, get us to avoid pain, including emotional pain, maybe especially emotional pain. It's tied to surviving in the tribe. Hey, don't do that. You'll piss off the tribe. So, there's shame and toxic shame, but all these emotions, aversions it's part of our flight system, and it encompasses not just physical danger, but also emotional danger, being disapproved of by the tribe. That could get you killed in ancient times. Go ahead.
Why was there no resistance? Or was there resistance in going into Melanie Tony Evans' program?
Initially, no, because I didn't know any better. I didn't even know what it was going to do. I just went with
why were you even looking that up? Like, what were you?
Because he watched all those YouTube videos and recognized.
I watched all the stuff I watched all the stuff on what narcissists were, and then I'm like, holy crap, that's my mom.
But why? What got, like, I said, like, how did you, like,
pain.
The journey from, like, I'm in pain?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm gonna get to. So I was just curious watching stuff on YouTube to stumble across this.
I see.
About narcissistic. One day it puts in my feed, and I'm like, that seems interesting. What's a narcissist?
Gotcha.
I've always been interested in psychology. There's so many people become psychologists because they're screwed up and they want to fix themselves. And I had some of that too. So
you just went down the rabbit hole pretty much.
Hey, and I'm an inquisitive guy. I like to learn. And so, stumbled across it in my constant quest for learning because I do like to constantly learn. So, as I actually started getting better, I did start feeling resistance because my brain started realizing, hey, Melanie's having me go inside and face all this uncomfortable stuff, painful stuff I don't want to face. And I actually asked myself, because I'm starting to feel some 5, 6 out of 10 resistance, I really don't want to listen to the audio again, even though I know it's been helping me massively. And I would pause and I say, what is this about? And what I discovered through my own self-reflection is, what if I go down, and at some point I go down and I look at who I really am, because that's what we have you do. We have you go deep down to where the trauma's at. A trauma is a painful belief tied to a painful feeling. What if I go down and look at who I really am? There's no distractions. There's no porn, there's no Instagram, there's no television, there's no computer games, nothing. I'm looking at who I really am. No excuses, no rationalizing. What if I go down there and do that and I find out I really am a piece of shit? I really am the worthless human being my mom told me I was. That's why I had resistance. But the thing that kept moving me forward is, number one, I already knew this worked and was getting me better. And number two, pain is a motivator. Alcoholics stop drinking when they bottom out. They say, I hit rock bottom. That's when I stop. Why? Because they finally get to the point where they understand the pain drinking is causing me is worse than the toxic shame it's helping me cope with. And that pain finally gets them to say, okay, I got to do something and fix this.
Correct.
Pain, ultimately psychological, emotional pain, at some point, if you're lucky, is going to get someone to say, this pain is so bad, I got to do something. So I still did have I was better, but not completely better. But I'm like, hey, this is working. This is getting me better. And this thing in me still sucks and causes me pain. I still have more stuff to clear. And so that's what pushed me forward. And, even when you clear trauma, you get the worst stuff out up front, usually. And then there's a lot of like smaller psychological, subconscious programs that you kind of knock off one by one. They only get triggered in certain instances. You know what I mean? You guys know what I mean.
Exactly where I'm at right now.
Yeah. So, and listen, so what happens is you clear the most obvious stuff first, and then the less obvious stuff, the stuff that doesn't get triggered as much, that isn't as intense, but is still causing problems.
Yeah.
Ton of progress up front, and then you kind of pick things over the years. Year 2, I probably fixed six subconscious programs. Year 1 was like, I don't know, really severe stuff, dozens. Yeah. Even in year 9, I was in a situation 3 years ago. I was in a situation I hadn't been before. No matter how hard I worked, I got more and more behind. I had a back injury, eventually needed surgery. And I felt toxic shame. Hey, no matter what I do, I'm trying so hard, but it's literally not enough to do all the work that's in front of me. I felt, after 9 years of doing this, felt toxic shame. I'm like, damn, I thought all my toxic shame was gone, but I'm in a new situation. I've never been in a situation where the harder I worked, the more I got behind. Not in the last 9 years. So that program got, after 9 years of doing this. And honestly, I probably didn't have anything to clear for 2 years, like 2 years of, I'm good. I fixed all my dating issues and all of that. But here I am 9 years in, new subconscious trauma getting cleared. Getting triggered. I cleared it. And it's like, oh my goodness, I'm on a new level of Zen I didn't realize was possible. I just had a greater level of peace walking through the world, after I cleared that. But even after years, I probably have still, I'm aware of maybe 2, 3, like 3 out of 10 bad subconscious programs in me, or we'll say maladaptive. I haven't cleared them yet. I still get a little resistance. And one thing is, I hardly ever feel this stuff, and it's very low level, and I always have other stuff to do, but I still get resistance now. And it's just because it's pain. Going in and looking at who you really are can be painful, and our brain doesn't want to feel that pain. It wants, hey, play a video game, do that, eat a brownie, that'll make you feel better. And then you don't have to face this. I still get that resistance, although like I said, so much trauma is gone. It's like, and it's replaced with really good stuff. Really good stuff replaces it. And it's awesome. It is just awesome.
is it fair to say you also get better at overcoming that resistance? And you also get better at identifying like your own emotions. Like, oh, I know, like normally I'm feeling like my self-esteem's pretty high. And if something specific really drops it, you're like, okay, that's probably a subconscious program that I need to clear. Like, but before you probably wouldn't have ever recognized it.
I used to have no idea what my anxiety was about. I felt anxiety constantly, and it would get spiked a couple times a day to 10 out of 10 anxiety, like almost a panic attack, maybe 9 out of 10. And I had no idea why. No idea what was going on. Now, if I feel anxiety, I'm like, what's this about? Takes 2-3 seconds, maybe 10 seconds. Oh, it's this. And not all anxiety is bad. Some anxiety is warning us of an actual threat we need to be aware of.
Yeah, there's patterns
we do need to avoid.
There's patterns matching in the outside world that your subconscious is recognizing and giving you that reaction.
Yeah, so it's so helpful. I had to bring it to the world. That's why I became a hypnotist. And I know what it's like to suffer. And because of that, I have compassion for people who still struggle. And let me tell you, I'm sure you guys experience it. It is like the greatest thing in the world to have someone come to you and you can see them suffering. And then after one session, you know, they are forever better. And not just a little bit, a freaking lot.
Yep. That is the reason.
And we'll talk about that next week, probably. Yep. We were meant to do it this week, but probably won't.
Yeah. Would you guys agree when someone does a session with you and just like that, their life is forever permanently better and you know it and they can feel it and like even their energy is different. They look different after the session than before. Yep,
absolutely.
That's
to me, that feels like a superpower.
That's a whole show about that. I can go on for days.
Does it feel like a superpower to you guys? Because it does to me.
It does. It is.
Yeah. And I've had people, I don't know if people have given you nicknames, but people have called me Dr. Strange, the Demon Sorcerer. They just come up with all sorts
I haven't gotten a nickname yet. That's
no pet names. Hey, you.
That's interesting. No nicknames. I'll let you know. You know, perhaps that's coming.
Yeah. So this is Carrie, Tim's wife, and we got rid of her anxiety and shyness, and now they have a very successful business. And she always wanted it, always stopped short. Now she's doing it. It's great. One session did that. One session turned her from I'm terrified and cannot move forward with my business plan to now she has a business, more demand than they can handle. One session did that. It is a superpower. I mean, it's pretty awesome.
Because of you, I don't get to play video games anymore.
I know. Sorry, bro. I should have told you what you were getting into when you.
That's right.
You guys agreed to do a session. I guess that's our show today. Do you guys have anything? I know I talked a whole lot. Do you guys have anything to add?
No, it was good. It was awesome.
Next week, I think we're going to cover some of our test or client examples, some of our best client examples. So stay tuned for that next week.
We'll do that, and we'll also just talk. What does it feel like to be doing what we're doing?
If we get to that, we are supposed to get to that.
Maybe that's the next week's show.
All right. So that's our show. This stuff is awesome. It blows my mind that the mainstream doesn't do that. I think a lot of mainstream practitioners just don't know. At the same time, Gabriel says he was asleep for 20 minutes during the show. He woke up. We're still talking.
You hypnotized him.
Yeah.
I think the mainstream psychologist, I think their money feed is just in a different direction. What is acceptable to their organizations is in a different direction, and that's what they support. Big pharma.
Yeah, some intentionally, like especially at the top, intentionally suppress these methods because they've been around for a while. I mean, you look at Gil Boyne in the 70s doing awesome work.
Yep.
You know, massively helping people very quickly. We didn't invent the wheel. I think we just like have a really, really, really amazing wheel. We got
a better tread on the tire.
Yeah, it's like the latest, greatest high-end sports car wheel. That's what we got, but the wheel's been around forever. You know, the hypnosis was invented before modern psychology. It was helping people before modern psychology.
It was, Mr. Mesmer.
Mr. Mesmer, and it was used back in World War II. They didn't have, and even more so in World War I, they didn't have any morphine. the medics were trained in hypnosis because they knew it got the pain down. It managed pain.
Yep.
You know, the Mayo Clinic. The reason the Mayo Clinic got so famous is because before modern anesthetics, they had ether, and ether would knock you out so they could do surgery on you. But half the time you get the dose just a little too strong and it would kill you. And half the time with surgery, the ether would get too strong and it would have people died from ether. So you would only do surgery if you really needed to save your life, because the ether would kill you half the time. The Mayo Clinic combined hypnosis with ether, and all of a sudden it would work without a non-lethal dose. And the death rate from overdose of ether basically went to 0 when they combined it with hypnosis. And that's what made the Mayo Clinic famous. How long ago was that? That was like 19th century stuff.
Yep.
So they've known about this.
Get something done today and don't be unburdened by what has been.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that's our show.
I was going to say that. We're going to do a whole show on that.
On that subject.
We're going to do a show on
talk about someone with narcissism.
Woo!
Yeah.
Big time.
We'll do it on Biden and dementia.
VP is
she is a chameleon, which is a perfect narcissist.
Well, you know,
we're going to do a whole show. We rip into her. That's coming soon too.
I do think Trump absolutely has some narcissistic traits too, but I think he's a mix. He's a mix of good and bad. He's not all bad. I think you can be a narcissist and still offer some good things to the world, but just be careful with narcissists. Be very careful, you know. But it's not like so many people in this world are like, this person does this thing I don't like, so I'm just gonna, it's black and white, they're total pieces of crap, I hate them, they're a Nazi. People are, and that's wrong, because, you know, even Andrew Tate has good things he brings to the world. He's a sociopath in my opinion, but he has good things he brings to the world too. So, you know, don't throw the baby out.
He's more like Dexter, the serial killer who kills serial killers.
Maybe, except, you know, he also sex traffics innocent women, probably.
Yeah,
so,
that's what
anyways.
I mean.
Kamala has a 92% staff turnover rate.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
92%. And I assume that's the tip of the iceberg, but that's next week. Maybe we'll.
Yeah. In a couple of weeks.
Yeah, a couple of weeks. All right. Tune in next week, guys. We got more good crap. Hey, and by the way, final plug here. If you want to try out these methods for free, right there, school.com/MindChrysalis-7138. We have an active community. It's free to join. And once you join, you click the classroom tab, take the SOS free course. There's an ebook there, and it's a 6-part self-hypnosis course with an ebook on how the subconscious works and why it keeps you stuck. That's all free. Join, try it out. I've had people cure their depression. And again, I'm not making any claims for you. I'm telling you what happened. I have testimonials of guys right now took the free course, cured their 10 out of 10 depression. In their words, one guy would procrastinate stuff for months. He did one session, fixed his procrastination, and then he had his first $20,000 a month for his business ever. Had another guy, Mike here, have his testimonial. Mike Harton, he did the self-hypnosis, the free stuff, and got his approach anxiety way down. The free stuff is powerful too. So give that a shot. You do have more power than you know. You can do it. Use these tools. They will change your life. And then maybe you'll become a hypnotist too. I've actually had 10 clients become hypnotists. So that's it for today. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Jordan. You do have more power than you know. That's our show. Thank you.